The arrival on Zalora. Marcus glanced out the window of his spacecraft as the blue-green planet of Zalora slowly filled his view. His heart pounded in his chest, equal parts excitement and anxiety gripping him. Years of preparation had led to this moment, and now, humanity was about to make its first contact with an advanced alien civilization. This was no ordinary mission. He was an ambassador of Earth, sent to foster peaceful relations with the Zalorians, an ancient and intelligent species known for their technological prowess. As his ship descended through the planet's atmosphere, Marcus observed the breathtaking landscape. Lush emerald forests, sparkling azure oceans, and towering crystalline cities stretched out in every direction. The alien world seemed to shimmer with life, far more vibrant and surreal than anything Earth had to offer. The skies above, swirling with iridescent clouds, cast an ethereal glow across the landscape. Touchdown in 60 seconds, the ship's AI assistant chimed, snapping Marcus out of his trance. He inhaled deeply, steadying his nerves. This was the moment the world had been waiting for, and he was determined to make it a success. With a gentle thud, the ship landed in a clearing not far from one of the Zalorian cities. The sensors beeped in confirmation. The atmosphere was breathable. Marcus hesitated for a moment before opening the hatch. A gust of warm air rushed in, carrying with it a mixture of sweet and strange scents. He stepped out onto the ground, the grass beneath his feet a deep, almost otherworldly shade of purple. Standing tall, Marcus adjusted his suit and activated his universal translator. He scanned the area, his eyes falling on the sleek, crystalline spires of the alien city ahead. But something else caught his attention, a rustle in the trees. Before he could react, 4 figures emerged from the foliage. They were unmistakably female, and their appearance was unlike anything Marcus had ever seen. Their skin shimmered in vibrant shades of blue, and they moved with a graceful fluidity that was almost hypnotic. Long silver hair cascaded down their backs, and their eyes, a piercing violet, seemed to glow in the alien sunlight. Each one was stunningly beautiful, but there was something in their demeanor that made Marcus uneasy. The tallest of the 4, a woman with an air of authority, stepped forward and surveyed Marcus with an amused expression. "Well, well," she said, her voice lilting and melodious, but her tone dripping with sarcasm. "What do we have here?" "A little pink creature from the mudball planet." Marcus blinked, taken aback by her hostility. This was not the greeting he had expected. "I am Marcus Chen," he said, standing as tall as he could. "I come in peace, as a representative of Earth. We seek to establish peaceful relations with your people." The woman chuckled, exchanging glances with her companions. "Did you hear that, girls? The little pink one can speak." Another woman, shorter and with spiky blue hair, clapped her hands. "Oh, he's adorable. Can we keep him as a pet, Zara?" Marcus clenched his fists, his cheeks flushing with a mixture of embarrassment and frustration. This was not how first contact was supposed to go. He had spent years preparing for this moment, only to be treated like a novelty. "Earth is not a primitive planet," he said, trying to maintain his composure. "We have made great advances in science, technology, and culture. We are here to learn and share knowledge with your people." Zara, the leader, tilted her head, a smirk playing on her lips. "Knowledge, you say? How interesting." She circled him slowly, her eyes sweeping over him as if evaluating a specimen. "Tell me, little human, do all of your kind have such peculiar features?" Marcus hesitated. "If you're referring to my nose, yes, all humans have them." The women erupted into laughter once again. The one with spiky hair nudged her friend. "Do you think he uses it to smell pheromones?" Her companion, a willowy woman with intricate facial markings, wrinkled her nose in disgust. "How barbaric. Imagine having to smell things all the time." Marcus gritted his teeth. This was not going well. He needed to find a way to turn the conversation around before it spiraled completely out of control. "Ladies," he began, adopting a more formal tone, "I understand that my appearance may be strange to you, just as yours is to me. But we come in peace, with the hope of sharing knowledge and building alliances between our worlds. Zara stopped circling him and raised an eyebrow. Oh, and what knowledge do you bring from your tiny, backward planet? Marcus reached into his pack and pulled out a small holographic projector. With a few taps, a shimmering image of Earth appeared in the air between them. This is my home, he said, zooming in on the diverse ecosystems, cities, and landmarks of Earth. We are a species driven by curiosity and innovation. We've come a long way, and we believe that by working together, we can achieve even greater things. For the first time, Zara seemed genuinely intrigued. She studied the hologram closely, her mocking expression softening into one of curiosity. Your atmosphere, she said thoughtfully, it's different from ours. It allows for combustion reactions we couldn't replicate here. Marcus nodded, eager to seize the opportunity. Exactly. Our atmosphere is rich in oxygen, which makes fire and certain chemical reactions possible. We've harnessed this to develop technology that could be mutually beneficial. As he spoke, Zara's eyes sparkled with interest, but the others quickly grew bored. The spiky-haired woman yawned. This is getting dull. Can we move on to the fun part already? Zara silenced her with a wave of her hand. Enough. I want to hear more from this human. Marcus, sensing that he had found a potential ally in Zara, continued his explanation, delving deeper into Earth's scientific advancements. The others, however, exchanged glances and whispered amongst themselves, clearly uninterested in the discussion. Finally, Zara turned to him with a sly smile. Very well, Marcus of Earth, you've piqued my curiosity. Perhaps you're not as primitive as I first thought. She gestured toward the crystalline city in the distance. Come with me. I'd like to show you our world, and perhaps we can learn more from each other. Marcus hesitated, unsure of her true intentions, but this was the chance he had been waiting for. He couldn't afford to let it slip away. I'd be honored, he said cautiously, following her lead. As they walked toward the alien city, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that he had just stepped into a world far more complex and dangerous than he had anticipated. Secrets of the alien city. The alien city loomed larger as Marcus followed Zara through the shimmering landscape. Each step brought him closer to the crystalline spires that seemed to glow from within, reflecting the alien sunlight in dazzling patterns. The architecture was unlike anything he had seen on Earth, an intricate blend of organic shapes and sharp, angular structures that defied the conventional understanding of engineering. Despite the beauty of the surroundings, Marcus couldn't shake the uneasy feeling in the pit of his stomach. Zara walked a few paces ahead of him, her long silver hair flowing with each graceful step. She hadn't spoken much since inviting him to the city, but her occasional sideways glances were enough to keep him on edge. There was something predatory in her eyes, something that hinted at a deeper game being played. As they approached the city, the air around them grew warmer, almost humming with energy. Marcus noticed that the grass beneath his feet gave way to a smooth, glassy surface that seemed to ripple under his boots. The closer they got, the more he felt like the city itself was alive, as though it was not just a collection of buildings, but something sentient, something observing his every move. The entrance to the city was marked by towering gates made of translucent material that shimmered like liquid crystal. They slid open silently as Zara approached, and Marcus marveled at the seamless integration of technology and nature. Beyond the gates, the streets were bustling with activity. Alien figures moved about in their daily routines, but Marcus could tell that the arrival of a human was causing quite a stir. Eyes followed him everywhere, some curious, others suspicious, and a few openly hostile. Welcome to Viorna, Zara said, her voice suddenly breaking the silence. This is one of our most advanced cities, a hub of knowledge and innovation. You're lucky to be here, Marcus. Few outsiders have had the privilege of stepping foot in our world, let alone in this city. Marcus glanced around, taking in the sight of towering structures that seemed to be made entirely of light. The buildings pulsed with energy, shifting in color and shape, as if they were responding to the rhythm of the city itself. Alien beings of all shapes and sizes moved fluidly through the streets, some gliding above the ground as though gravity was a mere suggestion. "This place is incredible," Marcus admitted, though the awe in his voice was tinged with unease. He couldn't help but notice that none of the aliens around him seemed particularly friendly. Their stares lingered on him, eyes narrow and unreadable, as if they were assessing whether he was a threat or a curiosity. Zara smirked at his reaction. "It's more than incredible, human. Viona is the heart of our civilization. Everything you see here, our technology, our way of life, has been perfected over millennia. We have achieved things your people can only dream of." Marcus wasn't sure if it was pride or arrogance that laced her words, but he nodded respectfully. "I can see that. Earth still has much to learn." As they walked further into the city, Marcus noticed something unsettling. The closer they got to the central tower, a massive crystalline structure that dominated the skyline, the quieter it became. The bustling activity of the outer districts faded, replaced by an eerie stillness. The aliens they passed no longer whispered or stared. They simply averted their eyes and hurried away, as if trying to avoid being seen near the tower. "What is this place?" Marcus asked, his voice lowering instinctively. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was very wrong here. Zara slowed her pace, turning to face him with a cryptic smile. "This is the heart of Viona, the Tower of Echoes. It's where we keep our most valuable knowledge, our greatest secrets." Marcus frowned. "Secrets? What kind of secrets?" Zara raised an eyebrow, her violet eyes glinting with amusement. "Oh, you'll find out soon enough. For now, just know that this tower holds the key to understanding our people, and perhaps your own as well." The cryptic response only fueled Marcus's growing suspicion, but he kept his thoughts to himself. As much as he wanted to press for more answers, he knew it was wiser to play along for now. He had come here to build bridges, not to provoke conflict. They entered the base of the tower, where the walls glowed with a soft, pulsating light. Marcus felt a strange hum in the air, a vibration that resonated deep within his chest. It was almost as if the tower itself was alive, communicating in a way that he couldn't fully comprehend. Zara led him into a large, circular chamber where a dozen alien figures stood around a glowing platform. They were dressed in robes of varying colors, their faces obscured by intricate masks that seemed to shift and change like liquid. One of them, taller and more imposing than the others, stepped forward and addressed Zara in a language Marcus couldn't understand. "Ah," Zara said, turning to Marcus with a smile. "It seems our council is eager to meet you." Marcus tensed. The council. Zara nodded. "Yes. They govern Viona and oversee all interactions with outsiders. It's rare for them to take a personal interest in a visitor, but you're special, Marcus. They've been watching you since you arrived." A chill ran down Marcus's spine. He wasn't sure what she meant by watching, but the idea of being under constant surveillance in this strange place didn't sit well with him. The council members gestured toward the glowing platform in the center of the room. Zara beckoned for Marcus to step onto it. "Go ahead," she urged. "This is where the real exchange begins. Don't be afraid." Despite his reservations, Marcus stepped onto the platform. The moment his feet touched the surface, he felt a surge of energy course through his body. The walls around him began to shift, the light intensifying until it filled the entire room. Suddenly, images flooded his mind. He saw glimpses of alien worlds, strange landscapes, and advanced technologies beyond his comprehension. But then the images shifted. Scenes of war, destruction, and chaos filled his vision. He saw alien races clashing in violent conflict, entire cities reduced to rubble. And then he saw Earth. Marcus gasped, his heart pounding in his chest. The vision of Earth was not one of peace, but of devastation. Cities in ruins, fires raging, and humanity on the brink of extinction. He tried to pull away, but the energy held him in place, forcing him to witness the horrifying scenes. What is this?" he stammered, his voice barely a whisper. Zara stepped closer, her expression unreadable. This is the future, Marcus. The future of your world, but it doesn't have to be this way. Marcus's mind raced, trying to make sense of the visions. What do you mean? How do you know this? Zara's smile returned, but this time it was colder, more calculating. We know many things, Marcus. We've seen the rise and fall of countless civilizations, and we've learned how to survive. Your people are on a path of destruction, but we can help you. We can offer you the knowledge to save your world, if you're willing to accept our terms. Marcus stared at her, his mind spinning with the weight of what he had just seen. The future of Earth, was it really as dire as the visions had shown? And what did Zara mean by terms? Before he could ask, the images faded, and the energy released him. He stumbled off the platform, his legs shaky and his mind reeling. Think carefully, Marcus, Zara said, her voice soft but filled with underlying menace. Your world's future is in your hands. Marcus knew in that moment that the stakes were far higher than he had ever imagined. The price of knowledge. Marcus staggered as the final vestiges of the vision faded, leaving him weak and disoriented. The pulsating light within the chamber dimmed, returning the room to its previous ethereal glow. He struggled to catch his breath, his heart still racing from the images of destruction that had flashed through his mind. Earth in flames, humanity on the brink of annihilation. Could it really be the future? Zara stood before him, her expression a mix of cold detachment and eerie satisfaction. The other council members, still masked and silent, watched him with unreadable intent. It was as if they had been waiting for this exact moment, waiting to see how he would react to the terrible knowledge they had bestowed upon him. How can you be sure? Marcus finally managed to ask, his voice trembling. How do you know this is Earth's future? What makes you think we're headed for destruction? Zara's violet eyes sparkled with something that bordered on amusement, though her tone remained serious. We have seen it happen before, not just with your kind, but with many others. Civilizations rise and fall, Marcus. It is a cycle that has repeated itself across countless worlds. Your people are no different. The signs are all there: overpopulation, resource depletion, internal conflict. You're standing on the edge of a precipice. Marcus shook his head, still reeling from the weight of the revelation. But it doesn't have to be this way. You said there was a chance to change it, that you could help us. What are you offering? Zara's smile returned, cold and calculating. She took a step closer to him, her voice lowering to a near whisper. We are offering you knowledge. The knowledge to prevent your world from following the same path as so many others. But knowledge, as you may already suspect, comes at a price. Marcus's stomach tightened. He had suspected as much. Nothing in this strange, alien world came without a hidden cost. The vision had been a warning, but also a bait, dangling the possibility of salvation in front of him, just out of reach. What do you want from us in return? He asked, his voice hardening. Zara's eyes gleamed, and for a moment, Marcus caught a glimpse of the true depth of her intentions. We want your cooperation, Marcus. We want an exchange of information, a sharing of resources. Our technology in return for your world's raw materials and energy sources. The planet you call Earth is rich in certain elements we cannot easily obtain here. With your help, we can harvest them, and in exchange, we will give you the tools to save your civilization. Marcus frowned, his mind racing. You want us to mine our own planet for you? Strip it of its resources in exchange for the knowledge to prevent our collapse. Zara's expression remained calm, almost too calm. It is a small price to pay for survival, don't you think? Your people's current trajectory will lead to devastation regardless. At least this way, you'll have the tools to rebuild. The council members, still silent and unmoving, stood like specters in the background, watching the exchange with quiet intensity. Marcus felt as though he was being scrutinized from all sides, his every word and reaction weighed against some unseen measure. His mind swirled with conflicting thoughts. The offer was tempting, and the fear of the future he had witnessed gnawed at him. But something about Zara's proposition felt wrong. Earth wasn't just a source of resources to be exploited. It was home, a fragile living world. What would happen if they began mining it for the Zalorians' benefit? How could they be sure they wouldn't be dooming themselves to a different kind of destruction? Marcus took a deep breath, trying to steady his thoughts. What exactly are these resources you're after? And how much do you intend to take? Zara's lips curled into a thin smile. We require certain rare minerals, ones that your planet has in abundance. Iridium, osmium, and a few others that we use in our advanced technologies. As for how much, well, that will depend on how quickly your world learns to adapt. The more you cooperate, the more knowledge we can share, and the less you will need to offer. The vague answer did little to calm Marcus's suspicions. It was clear that Zara was holding back crucial details, and the thought of Earth being stripped bare to fuel alien technology left a bitter taste in his mouth. "And what happens if we refuse?" he asked, his tone defiant. Zara's smile faded, replaced by a look of cold indifference. "If you refuse, Marcus, then the future we showed you will come to pass. Your world will burn, and we will not intervene. You will have sealed your own fate." Her words hung in the air like a death sentence, but Marcus wasn't ready to accept them. He knew there had to be another way, a path that didn't involve selling out Earth's future for short-term survival. He stepped off the glowing platform, turning to face Zara and the Council with renewed resolve. "I need time to consider your offer," he said firmly. "I won't make a decision without consulting with my people first." Zara's eyes narrowed slightly, but she did not argue. "Very well. We will give you time, but not too much. The longer you wait, the closer your world comes to the brink of destruction." Marcus nodded, already formulating a plan in his mind. He needed to get back to his ship, back to Earth, to warn them of what he had seen. But he also needed more information about the Zalorians themselves and what they truly intended to do with Earth's resources. "May I see more of your world?" he asked, trying to sound casual. "If we're to work together, I'd like to learn as much as I can about your people, your culture. It will help me make a more informed decision." Zara raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued by his request. "Curious, are we?" she said, her tone playful. "Very well, Marcus. I'll grant you a tour of our city. But remember, time is running out." She gestured for him to follow her once more, and together they left the chamber, the council members watching them with silent intensity as they disappeared through the towering archways. As they stepped back into the streets of Viorna, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched, closely monitored not just by Zara, but by the entire city itself. The structures seemed to hum with energy, as though they were alive, their crystalline surfaces reflecting the light in a way that made them seem like sentient beings. He had to be careful. Every move, every word he spoke could be used against him. Zara led him through the heart of the city, showing him various districts dedicated to science, arts, and engineering. Marcus marveled at the advanced technology on display, holographic interfaces, self-repairing materials, and energy sources that defied the laws of physics as he understood them. It was all impressive, but beneath the surface, he could sense a darker undercurrent. The Zalorians were a highly intelligent race, but there was a coldness to their society, an efficiency that bordered on ruthlessness. As they walked, Marcus began to notice something peculiar. The farther they went into the city, the fewer citizens they encountered. The streets became eerily empty, the vibrant energy of the outer districts fading into a quiet, almost sterile environment. It was as if they were entering a part of the city that the common people were not allowed to see. Zara finally stopped in front of a massive building, its crystalline walls glowing faintly in the dim light. "This is where we keep the most important pieces of our knowledge," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "It is not a place we show to outsiders. Consider this a rare privilege." Marcus stared at the imposing structure, his unease growing by the second. There was something about the building that felt wrong, something that set his instincts on high alert. but he knew he had to see what was inside, if only to gather more information about the true nature of the Zalorians. "After you," Zara said with a sly smile, motioning for him to enter. Marcus took a deep breath and stepped through the entrance, bracing himself for whatever lay ahead. Beneath the surface, as Marcus stepped inside the towering crystalline structure, an immediate sense of foreboding washed over him. The air inside was cold, unnaturally so, and the soft hum that had filled the streets outside was replaced by a stifling silence. The walls glowed faintly, casting ghostly reflections across the smooth floor. The building felt less like a repository of knowledge and more like a vault, a place designed to contain something, perhaps something dangerous. Zara walked beside him, her demeanor calm and composed, but Marcus could sense that she was watching him closely, evaluating his every move. She led him through a narrow corridor, the walls on either side lined with strange symbols and glyphs that glowed dimly as they passed. Marcus couldn't help but feel as though the walls themselves were alive, reacting to their presence. "This is the Hall of Echoes," Zara explained, her voice reverberating slightly in the cold air. "It is where we store the memories and knowledge of our ancestors, everything our people have learned over millennia." Marcus glanced at the glowing symbols, trying to make sense of them. "You mean, these are your people's memories?" Zara nodded, a hint of pride in her voice. "Yes, we do not rely on written texts or digital records as you humans do. Our knowledge is stored in the very essence of our people, passed down through generations. When one of our kind reaches the end of their life, their memories and experiences are transferred here, to be preserved for eternity. In this way, we never truly lose anyone." The idea fascinated Marcus, but it also raised unsettling questions. What kind of knowledge did the Zalorians deem so important that it had to be preserved for eternity? And why was this place so heavily guarded, hidden from the rest of the city? As they reached the end of the corridor, Zara stopped in front of a large, circular door made of shimmering crystal. She pressed her hand against a glowing panel, and with a soft hiss, the door slid open. Inside, the room was vast and cavernous, with hundreds of tall cylindrical pods lining the walls. Each pod emitted a faint, pulsing light, and Marcus could see strange shapes suspended within them, though the light made it difficult to discern what they were. "This," Zara said, stepping into the room, "is where the most important memories are kept. The memories of our greatest leaders, scientists, and warriors. Everything they knew, everything they experienced, is stored here, waiting to be accessed by those worthy enough." Marcus followed her into the room, his eyes scanning the rows of pods. "And what makes someone worthy enough to access these memories?" Zara turned to face him, her violet eyes gleaming with a mixture of amusement and something darker. "Worthy? That is a matter of perspective. For us, it means those who can continue to advance our society, those who have proven themselves capable of using this knowledge for the greater good of our people. Not everyone is granted access, even among the Zalorians." Marcus couldn't help but feel a chill run down his spine. There was something unnerving about the way Zara spoke of the knowledge contained within these pods, as if it held a power that could easily corrupt those unprepared to wield it. "You said earlier that you could offer us knowledge in exchange for our resources," Marcus said, his voice carefully neutral. "Is this the knowledge you were referring to?" Zara's smile widened. "Part of it, yes, but there is much more. The memories stored here are merely the foundation of what we can offer. You see, Marcus, the true power of the Hall of Echoes lies not just in the information it contains, but in the way that information can be transferred." Marcus frowned, uncertain of what she meant. "Transferred? How?" Zara walked over to one of the glowing pods and placed her hand on the surface. The light within the pod intensified, revealing the figure of a Zalorian suspended inside. The figure was motionless, its features serene, but Marcus could sense a deep energy radiating from it, as though it were alive in some way. "We can do more than simply access the memories of the past," Zara explained. "We can merge with them, take them into ourselves. By connecting with the consciousness of those who have come before, we gain not only their knowledge but their experience, their instincts, their understanding. It is a process we call echo binding. Marcus stared at the figure in the pod, a sense of dread creeping over him. "You're saying you can merge with the minds of your ancestors, you can become them." Zara nodded, her expression growing more serious. "In a sense, yes. We do not lose our own identities, but we gain a deeper understanding, a greater perspective. It is what has allowed our people to achieve such incredible advancements. Each generation stands on the shoulders of those who came before, not through study, but through direct integration of their knowledge." The implications were staggering. The Zalorians had found a way to effectively live multiple lifetimes, to pass down not just information, but the actual experiences of their greatest minds. It was a level of advancement that far surpassed anything Marcus had ever imagined. But as impressive as it was, there was a darker side to it, one that Marcus couldn't ignore. And what happens to those who merge with these memories? Does it change them? Zara's gaze flickered, and for a moment, Marcus thought he saw a shadow of something, regret, fear, pass across her face. But it was gone as quickly as it had appeared. "Echo binding is not without its risks," she admitted, her voice quieter now. "Some who attempt the process lose themselves in the memories, unable to distinguish between their own thoughts and those of the ones they have merged with. It is why the Council strictly regulates who is allowed to undergo the process. Only those who are mentally strong enough to withstand the merging are granted access." Marcus's unease deepened. "And you're offering this to humanity? You're offering us the chance to merge with the minds of your people." Zara nodded. "We are offering you the chance to save your world, Marcus, to give your people the knowledge they need to avoid the catastrophe that is coming. But yes, it would involve echo binding. You would gain the wisdom of our greatest minds, but it would not come without a cost." Marcus stepped back, his mind racing. He had come to Zalora with the hope of establishing peaceful relations, of finding a way for their two species to cooperate. But now he was faced with a choice far more complex than he had anticipated. Accepting the Zalorians' offer meant risking the very identity of humanity, melding with alien consciousness, harvesting Earth's resources for their benefit, and potentially losing themselves in the process. And yet, the vision of Earth's future still lingered in his mind. The devastation, the destruction, it was all too real. Could he really afford to turn down their offer? Could humanity afford to gamble with its survival? "You need time to think," Zara said, as if reading his thoughts. "I understand. This is not a decision to be made lightly. But remember, Marcus, time is not on your side. The future you saw will come to pass if you do nothing." Marcus clenched his fists, feeling the weight of the decision pressing down on him. He needed to return to his ship, to contact Earth and warn them of what he had learned. But he also knew that Zara wasn't giving him the full story. There was more to the Zalorians' offer, more than she was willing to reveal. "I need to speak with my people," he said, his voice firm. "I need to tell them everything you've shown me. Only then can we decide what to do." Zara's eyes narrowed slightly, but she nodded. "Very well. I will arrange for your return to your ship. But know this, Marcus, once you leave, the Council will expect an answer. We do not offer this opportunity lightly, and we do not extend it indefinitely." Marcus turned to leave, but Zara's voice stopped him. "And remember," she added, her tone sharp, "the future of your world rests in your hands. Choose wisely." As Marcus stepped out of the crystalline building and back into the city streets, the weight of Zara's words hung over him like a dark cloud. The knowledge he had gained inside the Hall of Echoes was both a gift and a curse, and now he was left with an impossible choice, one that could determine the fate of not only himself, but all of humanity. But one thing was certain: whatever decision he made, it would come at a price. The hidden agenda. Marcus's mind raced as he made his way back through the alien city, the weight of his conversation with Zara still heavy on his shoulders. The crystalline spires that had once filled him with awe now seemed cold and imposing, casting long shadows over the empty streets. The vibrancy of Viona felt like a distant memory, and all that remained was a gnawing sense of dread. His encounter in the Hall of Echoes had shaken him to the core. The knowledge the Zalorians possessed was beyond anything he could have imagined, and the implications of their offer were staggering. But as much as he was tempted by the possibility of saving Earth from the grim future he had glimpsed, there was something deeply troubling about Zara's proposal. The process of echo binding, the merging of human and alien consciousness, felt like a violation of humanity's very essence. Could he really bring this offer back to Earth? Could he ask his people to risk losing themselves to an alien intelligence? Marcus stopped in his tracks, staring at the shimmering pathway before him. He knew he had to think carefully. If there was one thing he had learned during his time here, it was that nothing the Zalorians did was without ulterior motives. There had to be more to their offer than what Zara was letting on. As he pondered his next move, a soft voice interrupted his thoughts. "You seem troubled, Marcus." He turned to see another Zalorian standing nearby, a figure cloaked in flowing, iridescent robes. She was shorter than Zara, with bright emerald eyes and delicate features that made her seem less intimidating. Unlike the others, her expression held no trace of arrogance or mockery. Instead, there was a quiet curiosity in her gaze. "Who are you?" Marcus asked, his guard immediately up. The woman approached slowly, her movements graceful and deliberate. "My name is Nera," she said, her voice gentle but firm. "I am not like the others. I sensed your distress and thought you could use some help." Marcus narrowed his eyes. "Why should I trust you?" Nera's expression softened. "Because I've been where you are now. I know what it's like to be caught between their promises and the truth they hide." She gestured for him to follow her. "Come with me. There are things you need to know before you make your decision." Marcus hesitated, glancing back toward the towering structures of Viona. He had no reason to trust Nera, but something about her demeanor seemed genuine, far more so than Zara's calculated manipulations. And if there was more to the Zalorian's offer, he needed to find out before he made his report to Earth. After a moment, he nodded and followed Nera down a narrow alleyway, away from the grand architecture of the main city. The further they went, the darker and quieter the streets became. The once glowing spires faded into the distance, replaced by low, unremarkable buildings that seemed out of place in a city of such advanced design. It was as if they were entering a part of Viona that the rest of the population had forgotten or purposefully ignored. Nera led Marcus to a small, inconspicuous building tucked between two larger structures. She pressed her hand against a hidden panel, and the door slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, the room was dimly lit, cluttered with strange devices and holographic displays. Unlike the sleek, sterile environment of the city, this place felt more organic, lived in. The air was warmer, carrying a faint scent of herbs and incense. "Where are we?" Marcus asked, stepping inside cautiously. "This is my sanctuary," Nera explained, closing the door behind them. "A place where I can think freely, away from the eyes of the council." "The council," Marcus repeated, his curiosity piqued. "What do they have to do with this?" Nera gestured for him to sit on a low bench near one of the displays. "Everything," she said, her voice tinged with bitterness. "The council controls all aspects of our society, from the distribution of knowledge to the decisions about who is allowed to undergo echo binding. They claim to act in the best interest of our people, but the truth is far darker." Marcus leaned forward, his attention fully on her now. "What do you mean?" Nera sighed, her gaze distant for a moment. "The council's offer of knowledge to you and your people is not what it seems. Yes, we possess incredible technology and wisdom, but what Zara didn't tell you is that echo binding comes with a price, one far greater than you can imagine." Marcus's heart skipped a beat. What kind of price? Nera's eyes locked onto his, her expression grim. "Those who undergo echo binding do not simply merge with the memories of our ancestors. The process is invasive. It alters your mind, your thoughts, your very identity." Over time, the alien consciousness begins to dominate, to take control. Those who survive the process are no longer the same. They are changed, driven by the will of the Council and the ancient ones whose memories they've absorbed. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. So, you're saying it's a form of mind control? Nera nodded sullenly. Yes, the Council uses echo binding to maintain control over our society. The ones who undergo the process become their agents, carrying out their will without question. They claim it is for the greater good, but in reality, it is about power, absolute power. Marcus's stomach twisted in knots. This was far worse than he had imagined. Zara had offered him echo binding as a way to save humanity, but in truth, it was a trap. One designed to strip away free will and replace it with the agenda of the Zalorian Council. And they want to do this to us? Marcus asked, his voice low and angry. To humanity? Nera nodded again. Yes, they see your people as a valuable resource, both for the minerals your planet holds and for the potential to expand their influence. By offering echo binding, they intend to integrate humanity into their control structure, using your people to further their own agenda. Marcus clenched his fists, anger and frustration bubbling up inside him. Why are you telling me this? If the Council controls everything, why aren't you one of them? Nera hesitated, her gaze dropping to the floor. I was once part of them. I was chosen to undergo echo binding many cycles ago. At first, I believed in the process, in the promise of knowledge and wisdom, but something went wrong. During the merging, I was able to resist. I didn't lose myself as the others did. I saw the truth for what it was, a means of control, not enlightenment. Marcus studied her, feeling a surge of sympathy. You broke free. Nera nodded, though her expression was filled with pain. Yes, but breaking free came at a cost. I am no longer welcome in the inner circles of Viorna. The Council allows me to live, but only because they know I can't stop them alone. Marcus took a deep breath, trying to process everything. Then why help me? Because you have a chance, Nera said, her voice filled with urgency. You have the power to expose the Council's plans to your people. If humanity accepts their offer, they will fall under the same control. But if you refuse, if you resist, you might be able to stop them. Marcus's mind raced. He had to warn Earth, to tell them everything he had learned before it was too late. But how could he convince his people of the danger? The Zalorians' offer would be tempting, too tempting. They promised salvation, but in truth, they were offering enslavement. What do I do? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Nera looked him in the eye, her expression resolute. You fight back. You return to your world and expose the truth. But you must be careful. The Council is watching, and they will do everything in their power to stop you. Marcus stood, his determination hardening. He had come to Zalora with the hope of forging an alliance, but now he saw that the only way forward was to resist. He couldn't let the Zalorians' plans unfold. He couldn't let humanity fall into their trap. I'll do it, he said, his voice steady. I'll warn Earth. Nera smiled, though there was a sadness in her eyes. Good, but be cautious, Marcus. The Council is ruthless, and they won't take kindly to defiance. You must move quickly. Marcus nodded, already planning his next steps. He had to get back to his ship, back to Earth. There was no time to waste. Every second that passed brought humanity closer to the precipice. As Nera opened the door to let him out, she placed a hand on his arm, stopping him for a moment. And Marcus. He turned to look at her, waiting. Remember, you're not alone in this. There are others like me, even here. You have allies, even if you can't see them yet. With that, she released him, and Marcus stepped back into the dim streets of Viorna. The cold air bit at his skin, but it only fueled his resolve. He had come here seeking peace, but now he knew the truth. The real battle had just begun. A desperate escape. Marcus moved swiftly through the darkened streets of Viorna, the weight of his new knowledge pressing down on him like a leaden cloak. His heart raced as he glanced around, every shadow seeming more menacing than before, every passerby a potential threat. He now knew the truth about the Zalorian Council's sinister agenda, but getting that information back to Earth was going to be far more dangerous than he had anticipated. Neera's warning echoed in his mind. The Council is ruthless, and they will stop at nothing to maintain control. The towering crystalline buildings of the city, which had once shimmered with an otherworldly beauty, now felt cold and oppressive. The streets were nearly empty, save for a few hooded figures who moved with purpose, their eyes never meeting his. Whether they were citizens going about their business or agents of the council, Marcus couldn't tell, and he wasn't about to find out. His priority was getting back to his ship and off this planet before the council realized what he knew. But the path ahead was fraught with uncertainty. He had no idea how closely they were watching him, or how much time he had before they moved to stop him. One wrong step, one sign of hesitation, and he could find himself trapped in a web from which there would be no escape. As Marcus turned down another side street, he activated the communicator embedded in his wrist. He needed to contact his ship's AI and prepare for immediate departure. "Echo, do you copy?" His voice was barely above a whisper, though his surroundings were eerily quiet. A brief moment of static crackled in his earpiece before Echo's calm, synthesized voice responded. "Copy, Marcus. Awaiting instructions." "I need you to prepare the ship for immediate takeoff," Marcus said, keeping his pace brisk as he navigated the maze-like city. "We're leaving Viorna. No delays. I'll be there within 10 minutes. "Understood," Echo replied. "Ship systems are currently at 90% readiness. Shall I initiate a full system check?" "No time," Marcus hissed, glancing around the corner of a towering building, eyes scanning for any signs of movement. "Just get it ready. We're leaving as soon as I'm aboard." He ended the transmission and quickened his pace, trying to maintain his composure despite the rising tension in his chest. Every second felt like it stretched into an eternity, and every step felt like it carried him closer to danger. As he neared the outskirts of the city, the buildings became more spaced out and the streets quieter. The once bustling metropolis gave way to an eerie stillness, the only sound being the soft hum of alien machinery in the distance. Marcus knew his ship was stationed just beyond the perimeter, hidden in a clearing far enough from the main city to avoid drawing attention during his arrival. But as he rounded a final corner, his breath caught in his throat. Standing at the end of the street, blocking the path to the open fields beyond, were 3 figures. Tall, imposing, and unmistakably members of the Zalorian Guard, their crystalline armor gleamed under the faint light of the alien sun. Their eyes, cold and emotionless, locked onto Marcus the moment they saw him. "Stop where you are, human," the tallest of them commanded, his voice resonating with authority. His violet eyes flickered with a strange intensity, and for a brief moment, Marcus saw something akin to pity in his gaze. "You've gone far enough." Marcus's mind raced. There was no doubt that the council had sent them. They must have known the moment he stepped into the Hall of Echoes, known that he had learned too much, that he had seen the truth behind their plans. Now, they were here to ensure he didn't make it back to his ship. But Marcus wasn't about to give up so easily. His training kicked in, adrenaline surging through his veins as he weighed his options. He could try to talk his way out of this, but the cold determination in the guard's eyes told him that words would be useless. He had to act, and fast. Without a second thought, Marcus spun on his heel and bolted down a narrow alleyway to his right, his feet pounding against the ground as he raced toward the outskirts of the city. Behind him, he heard the guards shout, their voices echoing off the crystalline walls as they pursued him. The chase was on. Marcus's lungs burned as he sprinted through the maze of alleys and side streets, his mind focused solely on one thing, reaching his ship. Every instinct told him that if they caught him, it would be the end, not just of him, but of any hope humanity had of learning the truth about the Zalorians' plans. He darted around corners, leaped over low barriers, and pushed himself harder than he ever had before. The sound of the guards' footsteps was close behind, relentless and unforgiving. They were faster than he expected, their alien physiology allowing them to move with an almost supernatural speed. But Marcus had one advantage: he knew how to navigate under pressure. Years of training as an astronaut and envoy had honed his ability to think on his feet, to adapt in the face of overwhelming odds. And right now, his only chance of survival was to outsmart his pursuers. Up ahead, he spotted a narrow passageway that branched off from the main street. It was a risky move. The passage was tight and winding, and there was no telling where it led. But Marcus knew he had no other choice. If he stayed on the open path, the guards would catch up to him in moments. With a quick glance behind to gauge the distance between him and the Zalorians, Marcus made a sharp turn into the passage, his heart pounding in his chest. The walls closed in around him, the space barely wide enough for him to run through at full speed. The air grew cooler, and the light dimmer as he descended deeper into the passageway, the sounds of the city fading behind him. For a few precious moments, he dared to hope that he had lost them, but the hope was short-lived. A sharp crackle echoed through the passage, followed by the distinct hum of alien weaponry charging up. Marcus's breath hitched as he realized what was happening. One of the guards had drawn a weapon, and they weren't going to give him the luxury of a clean escape. Instinctively, Marcus dove to the side, just as a bright, crackling bolt of energy sizzled past him, striking the wall with a deafening explosion. The force of the blast sent him sprawling to the ground, his body skidding across the smooth surface as the walls around him shook violently. He groaned in pain, his vision swimming for a moment as he scrambled to his feet. He couldn't afford to stay down. Not now. Not when he was so close. Pushing through the pain, Marcus forced himself to keep moving, his legs screaming in protest as he stumbled forward. The passage twisted and turned, narrowing further until it finally opened up into a wide clearing beyond the city limits. And there, nestled between the trees and bathed in the soft glow of its landing lights, was his ship. Marcus's heart leaped with a mixture of relief and desperation. He could see the ramp lowered, the entrance open, beckoning him to safety. But he wasn't safe yet. Behind him, the guards were closing in, their footsteps growing louder as they emerged from the passage. Marcus didn't look back. He couldn't. His focus was entirely on reaching the ship before they could catch up. He sprinted across the open field, his legs burning with every step. The distance between him and the ship seemed to stretch impossibly long, as if the universe itself was conspiring to slow him down. But Marcus pushed harder, his breath coming in ragged gasps as he willed his body to move faster. The guards shouted again, and Marcus felt the hairs on the back of his neck stand up as another energy bolt whizzed past him, narrowly missing his side. He was almost there, just a few more steps. Finally, he reached the base of the ramp and threw himself onto it, scrambling up the metal surface as fast as his battered body would allow. He could hear the guards shouting behind him, but their voices were distant now, drowned out by the roar of his ship's engines coming to life. "Echo, take off now," Marcus shouted into his communicator as he collapsed onto the floor of the ship, his chest heaving with exhaustion. "Confirmed," Echo replied calmly. "Initiating takeoff sequence." The ramp began to rise, sealing the entrance to the ship as Marcus lay on his back, staring up at the ceiling. His body ached, his mind raced, but for the first time since he had left the Hall of Echoes, he allowed himself a moment of relief. He had made it. As the ship lifted off the ground and shot into the sky, Marcus knew that the hardest part was still ahead. He had escaped the Zalorians for now, but the Council wouldn't give up so easily. They would come for him, and they would come for Earth. But now, Marcus had something they didn't expect: the truth, and he intended to use it.